For millennia, from India to China, Europe, and Arabia, entheogenic plants have been used to induce spiritual experiences, such as shamanic, ecstatic, and healing trances, believed to open a channel of communication between humans and deities. By altering the consciousness, entheogens allow the body and the mind of the user to reach a state of ego dissolution, a sense of unification with the universe, and a feeling of bliss while in the presence of the divine. The term entheogen comes from the Greek words entheos, the god within, and gen, to generate. Therefore, literally, entheogen means generating the divine within. Any substance with the power of inducing a mystical state, along with the experience of being possessed or inspired by God, is an entheogen. Since entheogens were discovered, they have undoubtedly changed the course of history, religion, and medicine, and to this day are object of a passionate ethical and medical debate. Marijuana, cannabis, and hemp are all terms that refer to entheogenic plants within the Cannabisaceae family. According to Carl Linnaeus and his binomial nomenclature, which classifies and names organisms according to their genus and species, marijuana is a common nickname that refers to the Cannabis sativa plant, the dry leaves, and the flowers, which contain high levels of THC, or tetrahydrocannabinol, a psychoactive compound. Since ancient times, marijuana has been consumed for mind-altering purposes. Hemp is a type of cannabis scientifically known as Cannabis sativa L. This herb has been cultivated for its resilient bark fiber and differs from marijuana as it contains much lower levels of THC. Hemp flowers are rich with a non-intoxicating psychoactive cannabinoid, CBD, which is now widely appreciated in skincare products, edibles, and is highly regarded for its wide range of health benefits. Hemp is extremely versatile. The plants have been used for thousands of years in the building material industry, for the manufacture of textiles, paper products, and biofuel. Cannabis indica, traditionally known as a pharmaceutical cannabis imported from India, is regarded as a more psychoactive drug than Cannabis sativa because of the high THC level. The narrow leaf variety, NLD, of Cannabis indica produces resins with high cannabinoid content. In China, hemp has been grown for millennia for its fiber and seeds as well as for its medicinal properties. The earliest archaeological trace of cannabis is indeed a hemp textile discovered in China and dating from 4000 BCE. Cannabis grain, together with rice, barley, millet, and soybeans, was one of the 5 staple food crops during the Han Dynasty, 206 BCE to 220 CE. Historical references to the use of cannabis as a psychotropic drug in Chinese medicine were discovered in the Shengnong Benkao, 200 CE, an encyclopedia on medicinal plants attributed to the Emperor Shennong, 2700 BCE. According to a tradition, the Emperor Shennong, the father of Chinese medicine, was a knowledgeable farmer. He studied plants in search for a cure to alleviate the suffering of his subjects. His book describes the consumption of muffin, the fruit of hemp, as toxic and inducive of demonic hallucinations. The Benkao Jingjizu, 480 to 498 CE, reports the consumption of cannabis flowers, also referred to as mabu, mixed with the ginseng, with the purpose of divination in Taoist and shamanic rituals. The psychoactive properties of cannabis have been associated with ancient Asian shamanic and Taoist ceremonies. During the Han Dynasty, when Confucianism was embraced, Taoism and shamanism steadily declined, and, with them, the consumption of cannabis for religious, healing, and hallucinogenic purposes. Shamanic journeys were deemed disreputable, therefore rarely spoken of in texts. The subsequent insufficiency of medical literature conveyed the initial misleading impression that cannabis in China was only a fiber and food plant. Huilin Li, a Chinese botanist, academic, and researcher, in his article, The Origin and Use of Cannabis in Eastern Asia Linguistic Cultural Implications, relies on archaeological and historical findings to trace the evolution of the use of cannabis in ancient China. He reinforces the beliefs that cannabis in China was primarily a fiber plant, commonly used to make ropes, cords, netting, textiles, and paper, but it was also known as a food crop and entheogen. With the advent of Confucianism, the use of cannabis as a mind-altering substance was discontinued. In 2019, Chinese archaeologists exhumed 10 wooden braziers dating from 500 BCE from 8 tombs in the ancient Zhizhenko cemetery on the Pamir Plateau in China's Xinjiang region. The braziers revealed traces of cannabis plants. The location of the archaeological discovery is indicative of the use of cannabis as a psychoactive. During funeral rituals, hallucinogenic smoke was inhaled to induce states of altered consciousness and facilitate the communication with the spirits. The archaeologists studied the char on the braziers and concluded that the strain of cannabis burnt in the wooden bowls likely originated somewhere else in Central Asia, as it differed from the local strains of cannabis, which were grown for food and fiber. The braziers are some of the earliest artifacts that attest to the use of cannabis for mind-altering purposes in ancient China. Cannabis was well known in ancient India as a crop, as a therapeutic, and as an entheogen. The therapeutic properties of cannabis are described by the Indian Hindus, the Greeks, the Assyrians, and the Romans in various manuscripts. Cannabis was first mentioned in the Vedas, the sacred text of Hinduism. In the Vedas, cannabis was a sacred plant that could please Shiva and could bring joy and freedom from fears and anxiety. According to Hindu legends, Lord Shiva introduced cannabis to the human race for compassion when he discovered that cannabis aromatic fumes settled his nerves. The ancient Hindus believed that cannabis and its medicinal properties could please the gods and soothe their anger, which was a root cause of fever. The consumption of cannabis in religious rites supposedly calmed the gods and cured the fever. Cannabis was used in traditional medicine as antiphlegmatic and as a treatment for epilepsy, asthma, and illnesses of the digestive and respiratory tracts. Cannabis in ancient Hindu culture was considered holy, and it was strongly connected to the spiritual world. In the fourth Veda, cannabis is mentioned as one of the 5 most sacred plants on earth. The manuscript reports that a guardian angel resides inside the leaves of cannabis, and it refers to cannabis as a plant with the power to overcome enemies and evil forces. In addition, cannabis is described in the sacred text as a source of joy and happiness and as a liberator. The records of cannabis use in Artha Veda prove that the plant was a part of Hindu spiritual practices and traditional medicine for thousands of years. Raw hemp was discovered in the mixture of clay and lime plaster used to coat and preserve the caves of Ellora, a UNESCO World Heritage Site dated from the 6th century CE and located in the Aurangabad district of Maharashtra, India. The finding demonstrates that hemp was extensively used. Therefore, Indians in the 6th century were aware of the properties of cannabis. The hemp sample collected from the caves matches cannabis sativa samples from the area surrounding Delhi. The Ellora caves were located on an ancient South Asian trade route. They served as temples and as an area of rest for pilgrims, but they were also an important commercial center, which implies that the various properties of cannabis must have been familiar to merchants and visitors. Archaeologists and historians have long debated about the use of cannabis in ancient Egypt. Some believe that cannabis was known only as a textile. Others maintain that cannabis' psychoactive components were also understood and widely employed for medical treatment. Recent findings support the theory that cannabis may have been cultivated for more than just its fiber and medicinal properties, and evidence has been collected from ancient papyri. The Cannabis Papyrus, an Egyptian medical papyrus of herbal knowledge dating from 1550 BCE, is one of the oldest and most relevant medical journals of ancient Egypt. It offers us a window into the ancient Egyptian world of medicine, which blended science, religion, and magic. The Cannabis Papyrus not only contains extensive information about various therapeutics commonly used in ancient Egypt, but it also describes the properties and applications of Shemshemet, a fibrous and medicinal plant now identified as cannabis. The papyrus documents the use of cannabis as anti-inflammatory and antioxidant, and reports that cannabis was a known treatment for glaucoma, cataracts, hemorrhoids, and cancer. Cannabis alleviated pain and discomfort caused by menstruation, minor injuries, depression, and mental disorders. The Chester Beatty medical papyrus dates from 1200 BCE and focuses mostly on colorectal diseases. It mentions the word Shemshemet, cannabis, and it reports the prescription of crushed cannabis seeds and suppositories as a valuable pain medication for colorectal cancer and headaches. According to the papyri, cannabis was used not only to treat eye problems or pain in the extremities, but also to improve overall female health and control fever and inflammation. The Ramesseum papyri were discovered in the temple of the ancient city of Ramesseum. The papyri report the use of cannabis to treat childhood illness, help the birthing process, and facilitate the recovery from injuries. In addition, the Ramesseum III papyrus describes a mixture of cannabis and celery to heal eye problems. The Ramesseum papyri, together with the Aber papyrus, the Chesta Beatty papyrus, and the Berlin papyri, provides evidence that cannabis was well known to the Egyptians, and it was used for its fiber and as a medicine. Furthermore, the results of recent drug tests on mummies confirm that Egyptian pharaohs inhaled cannabis for ceremonial purposes. The carving of Seshat, the ancient Egyptian goddess of writing, wisdom, and knowledge, wearing a cannabis leaf headdress, is located on the back of the throne of the statue of Ramses II in the Amun Temple in Luxor, Egypt, dating from around 1250 BCE. The stem that connects what appears to be a cannabis leaf to the head of Seshat suggests a link between cannabis and consciousness. Dr. Herer, a passionate scholar of ancient Egypt and an esteemed Egyptian artifact collector, in his article on the marijuana myth in ancient Egypt, questions the approach of Warren Dawson, who studied the Eber papyrus and identified Shemshemet as cannabis sativa. Dr. Herer argues that the papyrus does not associate Shemshemet with pharmacological effects on the central nervous system, and debates that cannabis indica was introduced to Egypt only in the 7th century CE. The article demonstrates the coexistence of opposite opinions in regard to the identification of Shemshemet as cannabis.